Welcome back to Financial Independence 101. This is Mike. Today I'm going to talk to you about the strikes at the ports. And as you know, I've never been a big fan of unions. Actually, I just made a video how bad unions are. And here we go. We're going to be seeing shortages. We're going to be seeing rising prices. And I've got to tell you, from what I've heard from the guy that's in charge of this whole strike business with the unions, with the maritime, this could go on from 3 weeks throughout the rest of the year. So it could be extremely bad. So when we get into some numbers here, most of these dock workers, or a large percentage of them, work with overtime and benefits, make $100,000 a year, and they're asking for $177 increase over to about what, 6 years, something like that. So $177,000, and that's only 1% of the population is going to benefit. 100% is going to be suffering because of this. All right, let's get into this. Nearly 50,000 members of the International Longshoresmen Association are on strike Tuesday against the nation's East and Gulf Coast ports, choking off the flow of many American imports and exports. See, this is one thing I really want to point out. Once this is all over, or during this, we really need to understand that it's not advantageous to manufacture the vast majority of our goods and products out of the U.S. Bring the manufacturing home, and there's ways to make it work, but it's not just wages that's a problem with manufacturing. It's all the red tape. It's all of the regulations, the massive amount of regulations. Some of that has to get repealed to increase manufacturing in the U.S., but that's what this is really. Another problem is the lack of manufacturing in the U.S. We wouldn't cripple ourselves when we shut a dock down if we are self-sufficient. If we're 80%, 90% self-sufficient, this wouldn't be an issue. Anyway, strikes, which began at midnight, will stop the flow of a wide variety of goods. And they're talking about mostly the perishables are going to be the biggest problem. But everyone was talking about bananas, but I mean, you actually could live without bananas for 6 months. I've gone 6 months without eating a banana, but that's just one of the things they like to go to. They also talk about European beer, wine, liquor, along with furniture, clothing, household goods, and stuff. A lot of this stuff really isn't something that you need to buy every single day, though, but some of it is. So one of the things that we're seeing is if we have to be out here a month or two, this world will collapse, says ILA President Harold Daggert in an interview with the CNN Tuesday morning. Go blame them. Don't blame me. Blame them. So it is true, though. It is very, very true that if this goes on for a long time, this is going to be a big problem. For the short term, it's not going to be a big deal. Even up to 3 weeks. Up to 3 weeks. You got to think all the stuff that's already unloaded off the ports is now making its way through the U.S. and supplying. So if your shelves are empty now, there's still going to be more stuff on those shelves over the course of the next week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. But after 3 weeks, they project that we're going to start seeing some shortages. Even if it runs out, like there are Sam's that are out of toilet paper and bottled water right now, but they'll get more in the next day or two. One of the problems is that they're too far apart. So some of the metrics people are talking about here, that this is the first strike on these ports since 1977. The union says there are about 50,000 members, which I see other documents saying 45,000 members. So it's 5,000 person disparage there. And then there's also these port jobs closer to 25,000. So getting the exact number is a bit of a challenge on how many people's involved, but it's still right around 1% or less than 1% of the population of the United States. So there's at 1% or less than 1% that would benefit from all of this, and everybody's going to suffer. So that's the thing. So they've already been offered a 50% increase over the proposed 6-year contract, but they're holding out for a 77% pay hike. That's insane. That's absolutely insane. As the rest of the world, so all the people that are making minimum wage are going to have to pay more for the goods and services, or just do without, while these people that are making, many of them already making $100,000 a year, want to make $177,000 a year, and those people over here making $22,000 a year are going to be paying 50% more for the goods and services. Now, the shipping rates are another issue. Shipping rates soared during and immediately after the pandemic, as supply chains snarled and demand surged. Industry profits topped $400 billion from 2020 to 2023, which is believed to be more than the industry had previously made in the total. Containeration started in 1957, according to an analyst. So, looking at some of this stuff that they're talking about, they're trying to say that shipping rates could also go up. You got all these ships that are just stranded out there, and they're either going to get rerouted, and that's going to add to the expense of the shipping, and they reroute to the other side of the U.S., which could take another couple of weeks, right, to get those ships over there. And that's an issue, and that's an extra charge, and that means that things are going to get more expensive. But guess what? Target, Walmart, Amazon, a lot of them have already rerouted their ships, as if they knew this was going to happen. Now, there's more to this, of course. There's businesses that are becoming nervous. They really are concerned, and 200 businesses, over 200 businesses, business groups sent letters to the White House last week asking the Biden administration to step in to prevent the strike, saying that the country relies on moving both imports and exports to these ports. Now, this is something that can get enacted. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce sent a follow-up letter Monday urging President Joe Biden to exercise the powers under what is known as the Taft-Hartley Act, which became law in 1947, and to keep the ports open and longshore workers on the job, President George W. Bush applied the act in 2002 to halt the 11-day lockout of union members at the West Coast ports. But what this does, and let's get another graphic up here, this basically has an 80-day cooling off period for companies and unions to try to resolve their differences. And see, they can enact that right now, today. What's probably going to happen is once we see a lot of pain and that the unions are not going to let up, they're not going to accept 76% increase or 70% increase. They want the 77. And so when they don't let up and they've crippled the country for 3 weeks, like they've already said they're going to do for 3 weeks, if they don't cave and we don't raise the price of all of the shipping because we're paying the dock workers more, then they're going to hold out minimum of 3 weeks, but it could be 3 months. And they want to show, they want to send a message that when they negotiate, you listen or we'll shut you down. And that's really what's going on right here. Again, another reason I don't like unions, and I like Oklahoma because very little unionization here, and a lot of companies are moving this way. You can't move the docks to Oklahoma. That's a problem. Now, there's another kind of caveat to this. The U.S. Port Workers Union, backed by the White House, is striking. So this is one of those things. So basically what the White House is saying, the Harris and Biden White House is saying that they care more about the 1% of people that are already making nearly $100,000 a year to help them make $177,000 a year. They do not care about the entire country, which, I mean, we already know Democrats don't care about the U.S. at all. They care about the globalist agenda is more important than a nationalist agenda, which I am a nationalist, and I would like to see a nationalist in charge that actually cares about the country. And with that, they're saying that they back the unions and they're not going to take any action on this, but they probably will after 3 weeks. I mean, the little bit of humanity left in the Democrat Party would have to surface after a few weeks, probably. The next thing I want to talk about is automation. Now, I want to take this screen grab from Rethinking the Dollar. This is Mike over at RTD. Mike, cool name, Mike. And he was really discussing how already in China there's a lot of automated docks, fully automated docks, and there was some video he found on it. So all I did is take a screen grab, but it showed that there's not one human being on the dock. And it's being controlled by control centers where people are sitting behind computers with six screens, and they're just controlling everything that's going on the dock, and it's fully automated, and it's more efficient, it's faster, and guess what? That's the direction we're going. Every time we see one of these strikes, we see a certain percentage of loss of job. Usually it's around 10 to 15%. And so that's at 45,000 to 50,000. So you're looking at maybe going down to 15,000 jobs getting lost over the strike. And I could say that they're more encouraged than ever to automate the docks fully now that this is going on. And I'm not going to lie, it's something that I think is going to happen faster, sooner rather than later, and especially since they're trying to put this in as a negotiating factor. But at the end of the day, they're already moving that direction. So we're only a couple days into the strike, and the shutdown isn't really that impactful to the average American, but Americans are already reacting. They have fresh in their mind 2020, getting the toilet paper and the bottled water, which is not really the top concern. But this could be a much bigger impact if it goes longer than 3 weeks. If it goes through the rest of the year, it could potentially impact Christmas season, and all that, the holiday season, all that kind of stuff. So with that, I'm not too concerned about it right now, but if it continues to go on, it could be very bad. And it'll be interesting to see how this fares. And it will also be an eye-opener. Strange they're doing it right before the election. I would think that they wouldn't want to make the White House look this bad right before election, but we'll see what happens. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, subscribe. Financial Independence out.